The overwhelming majority of Afro-descended people in North America, South America, and the Caribbean descend from the various ethnic groups of West and Central Africa. But unfortunately, very few people have actually mapped out West African history and highlighted its significant moments. If we were to do a quick summary of West African history in particular, what exactly would that look like? Well, today, hopefully, I can answer that question for you guys. What up, African family? It's Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And as always, if you want to support the Home Team, you can do so on patreon.com. Also, go to Afrographics.com to gain more resources for African history. There you can find illustrative articles summarizing African history. All links to Patreon, Afrographics, and Home Team merchandise are in the description box below. To begin, this video is not at all an absolute truth concerning what events were important in West African history. I want this to be more of a guide for us in the diaspora to build on and perfect, so I'm really looking forward to what events you guys may think are the most significant in West African history, so be sure to leave a comment below. Some obvious events like the Atlantic slave trade and colonialism won't be a part of this list because I wanted to focus a little more on grassroots moments for that region. Those two pivotal events were more so interruptions of African history rather than homegrown developments. So let's begin. The first significant event on our list is the introduction of Islam into West Africa. Now, I know many of you may be thinking that this is clearly not a homegrown development like I mentioned before, but I think that religion in general is a special case because various religions flowed into Africa just like it did in the rest of the world, and Africans used the religion the way they saw fit, resulting in good, bad, and neutral moments. Islam entered into West Africa through a combination of merchants from the north and conquest. Many African rulers began new dynasties as they converted to Islam. Out of the three classical empires of West Africa, Wagadu, Mali, and Sangha, two of them were Muslim. The effects of Islam in West Africa has certainly been critiqued, but what cannot be denied is the embrace of Islam by many West African elites and how it began to shape events in that region. Our second significant event in West African history are the stone settlements of Daraa Techit. Popular culture has many preconceived notions about West Africa and its people, and the idea of unsophisticated architecture is one of them. Stone buildings have been a part of West African architecture since ancient times, and we're only just now beginning to understand the scope of it. Anthropological, linguistic, and archaeological evidence provides windows into the origins of West Africa's very first empire, Wagadu. The stone settlements of Daraa Techit possibly gives us some insight into the ancient origins of Wagadu. Daraa Techit, in what is now south-central Mauritania, was believed to have contained Soninka people, and around 1900 BC, they began to build stone settlements, sparking the civilization we see today in West Africa. During the classical phase of the Daraa Techit civilization, it featured around 540 stone-walled compounds. The area also consisted of clear street layouts and massive surrounding walls. The Soninka stone settlements at Daraa Techit is significant because this is the first time we're made aware of a rather large West African settlement, possibly leading to the later development of an empire. Now, our third significant event in West Africa is the founding of the legendary city of Timbuktu. For some, Timbuktu needs no introduction, but it's always great to revisit the grandness of this city. Timbuktu was the most important city in West Africa during the medieval times and one of the wealthiest in the world, and it was located in the modern-day West African country of Mali. In its prime, Timbuktu became the primary destination for merchants from the Middle East and North Africa. It's said that the level of learning at Timbuktu's Sankore University was superior to that of many other Islamic centers in the world. Sankore University was capable of housing 25,000 students and had one of the largest libraries in the world with between 400,000 to 700,000 manuscripts. Local tradition dates the founding of Timbuktu to around the year 1100 AD, originating at a seasonal nomad camp based around a well maintained by an old woman. The woman's name was said to be Buktu, and Tin means well, hence the name being said to mean the Well of Buktu. Whatever the myth of the town's origin, this was a very significant moment in West African history, and by the 12th century, Timbuktu was already an active trading post on the routes crossing the Sahara into West Africa. In the 14th century, the town was absorbed by the Mali Empire and enjoyed a period of prosperity. It's very interesting to learn that the most important and prominent city in all of West African history was most likely founded by a woman. Our fourth significant event in West Africa is the founding of metalworking societies and the use of iron. Unfortunately, little concerted archaeological research has yet to be undertaken in West Africa, and so we only have a few cultures to choose from when speaking on this topic, the Nok culture seemingly being more available to us. Most scholars conclude that the date for most Nok sculptures ranges between about 900 BC to 200 CE. Nok's terracotta figurines and iron implements are widely distributed across northern Nigeria and have been frequently described as one of the early centers of sculptural tradition in West Africa. This is significant because it's been proposed that the early Nok sculptural tradition influenced other cultures in the region, leading to the most breathtaking work of the Yoruba and Edo peoples in southern Nigeria. Nok culture shares numerous similarities with Ele-Ife culture. Both cultures produce life-sized or nearly life-size human figurines. Although scholars can't be 100% sure, the style of the Nok figures appears ancestral to the later terracottas and cast bronzes of Ele-Ife, and the later castings of Benin perhaps owe some inspiration. Our fifth significant event in West Africa was the rise of the Almoravids. The Almoravid movement consisted mostly of Sangha Berbers further north, who began to form a union with various African ethnic groups further south in Senegal. This Islamic awakening, if you will, was significant because it was the first time an African group of people originating from Western Africa conquered an area outside of the continent, and in the case of the Almoravids, Spain was their target. Sometime around 1020, a Berber ruler of Adugas converted to Islam. Yahya, his successor, made a pilgrimage to Mecca and met the Islamic cleric Ibn Yasin. Yahya invited the cleric to return to Africa with him to evangelize among the Berbers, but that didn't work. The Berbers exiled Ibn Yasin, who was forced to flee to Senegal in Techit. In Techit, Ibn Yasin founded his Islamic movement, the Almoravids. Berbers and Techit converts flocked to his standard, fired up by Islam. The Berbers wanted the independence of Adugas from the non-Islamic rule of Ouagadougou. They also wanted to Islamicize by force if necessary the Berbers of the desert, and on the other hand, the Senegalese in Techit wanted their independence from Ouagadougou, or the Soninka people. A match was made in heaven, and by 1055, the Almoravids wrested Adugas from Soninka rule. By 1062, the Almoravids were formed, and they went on to conquer a large portion of southern Spain. Our sixth significant event in West African history is the founding of the Mali Empire by Sunjata Keita. The Mali Empire was perhaps the most prosperous and arguably the wealthiest empire in West African history. The fall of the Ouagadougou Empire left a huge power gap in the Sahel region, and various groups were vying for power. Sumanguru Kante attempted to fill that gap. It's said that he was absolutely ruthless and even mocked the Mandinka of Mali. Sunjata Keita rallied his troops at the Battle of Karina, creating the greatest empire in West African history. The Mali Empire went on to form the first known constitution in West Africa, and under the Mandinka, the city of Timbuktu began its golden age. Because of Sunjata's success, the wealthiest man in human history, Mansa Musa, came to the throne. The founding of the Mali Empire is no doubt one of the brightest gems in West African history. Our seventh significant event in West African history are the Great Walls of the Benin Empire. The Benin Empire was the longest lasting empire in West African history, lasting officially from 1180 to 1897. One of the greatest accomplishments of the Edo people of Benin was the building of the Great Walls. The walls of Benin are a series of earthworks made up of banks and ditches. Collectively, they've been said to be the world's largest man-made or earthwork structure. Fred Pierce had this to say in The New Scientist. They extend for some 16,000 kilometers in all, in a mosaic of more than 500 interconnected settlement boundaries. They cover 6,500 square kilometers and were all dug by the Edo people. In all, They are 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China and consumed 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid of Cheops. They took an estimated 150 million hours of digging to construct and are perhaps the largest single archaeological phenomenon on the planet. Coming in at number 8, we have what some may call the main invasion. This was a significant moment in West African history because it really shaped a good portion of what we see today on the coastlines of modern West Africa. The main invasion was an invasion of rogue Mandinka clans or warriors into the coastlines of West Africa after the fall of the Mali Empire, mainly entering into the areas of Sierra Leone and Liberia. Some even suggest that they made their way all the way into northern Ghana. These Mandinka soldiers conquered nearly everything they touched and greatly influenced the culture there. Their arrival brought improved military techniques, new religious and social patterns like secret societies, and new kingdoms. The Portuguese along the coast even spoke about how swift and aggressive this invasion was. The main invasion certainly shaped the geopolitical tone for future generations to come. At number 9, we have the fall of the Sangha Empire. The Sangha Empire was a very significant part of West African history because it was the last empire of the classical period. The fall of the Sangha Empire led to many consequences that reached far and wide. The Moroccans invaded the Sangha state during civil unrest and major instability. The fall of the Sangha Empire was the beginning of the Dark Ages for West Africa. This period is largely characterized with the influx of post-imperial African kingdoms, and with the rise of these hybrid kingdoms, war and dysfunction prevailed. The arrival and persistence of foreign goods, services, and division amongst ethnic lines disembodied any semblance of statehood, leaving a power gap waiting to be filled. And finally, at number 10, we have the Trans-Saharan trade routes, developed by the Berber people in the north. The Trans-Saharan trade routes were pivotal for the economic development of West African empires. These routes were essentially the only connection West Africa had with the north, and especially the rest of the world. Africans from further south would frequently trade with their Berber counterparts. What's most impressive is how they did this traversing a very hostile desert, which took a lot of experience and skill. The mastery of trans-Saharan trade cannot be overstated, as it was pivotal to the growth of West African civilization. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help out in its continued production, please consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.